Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and this is the final mock draft before the Super Bowl here. So we're going to get right into it. Before you do that, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell to get notified when new videos come out. And Ryan, let's get into it here. If you guys are subscribers or viewers of the channel, you know Ryan and I will rotate picks. This week I am doing odds. Ryan's doing evens. Ryan's hopefully going to be doing evens forever for the rest of the offseason with his Patriots hopefully winning this Sunday in Super Bowl 60, but we'll have to wait and see. So with me going first here, being a big IU fan, I mean, just the easiest pick here. And I was, once again, probably like a lot of IU fans, I'm going with Fernando Mendoza here, quarterback from Indiana University. And I was watching IU 2025 season highlights, national championship highlights again today because it was a slow day at work. And I was even sitting there thinking, it's like, uh, who who else legitimately has a case for the Raiders to take at number one overall? Like I'm trying to
Uh,
think. I mean, there are other good players. There might be some better like physical prospects yet, but if you just go look at the Raiders team needs, where they're at, or organizationally, it's like who else or where else would they go with this first overall pick? Like, is this the most surefire first round pick or first overall pick since probably Joe Burrow?
I mean, like the only thing that I think that they could somewhat explain is if they traded it. Like, let's say they traded to the Jets for 216 and then like a first next year and then like some other picks on top of that. I think
Yeah,
that that is like,
and that's
okay.
fair. I'm not even
uh,
talking about that.
yeah.
Yeah,
But Fernando Mendoza is going first overall. I think no matter what. I
yeah.
don't think you could make a case for anybody else. Like even Francis Maui Noah, like Rueben Bain, like these are all good players, and there are some blue chips in this draft. But Fernando Mendoza is a top 5 prospect already in this class, and then he's also a quarterback on top of it. Like whoever
Mhm.
is picking first has to take him, and I believe it's going to be the Raiders because
Yeah.
one they have the pick right now, and they have the need at quarterback. So
Yeah. No. It's not even too much to debate right now, and there's no quarterbacks that's even going to be coming up. Potentially no other quarterback in the first round. Potentially, I have to wait and see it as the combine comes. So, but Ryan, with that being said, who are the Jets taking at number two?
I think the Jets could go a few different ways here. They do have the luxury of a second first round pick here at pick 16. But for this one, uh, I saw some people, they like Arvell Reese, people like David Bailey. I've seen some others. I think Ruben Bain is just too good to pass up. He's too much of a 3 down player. I think David Bailey is a developing 3 down player, but Ruben Bain, I understand he might have shorter ish arms, but I think he's just too powerful of a pass rusher. I think the last time Aaron Glenn took a short armed edge rusher second overall, I think it worked out pretty well for Aiden Hutchinson and the Detroit Lions there. So I think Ruben Bain is just the pick here. Also, you look like Jermaine Johnson is on his way out, I believe, as his contract is up at the end of the 2026 season. They traded away Quinn Williams, so I definitely think defensive line, specifically pass rush, is going to be a little bit more prominent and on their minds this year. So I think Ruben Bain just makes too much sense for this Aaron Glenn defense.
Yeah. No, I can see that too. I'm curious to see how the receivers do because I think that would be an interesting one. Like, how does Jordyn Tyson do? Does Carnell Tate stand out? I think it would be very interesting to pair Mekhi Lemon with Garrett Wilson. But then at the same time, though, too, it's like no offense to Mekhi Lemon, I just don't see him as the number two overall pick. You know,
Yeah.
but I think that would be a very interesting combo. The Jets are picking again at 16, so maybe they would trade up there for that. But I think here with the Arizona Cardinals now, new head coach Mike LaFleur. Uh, I definitely do think one, he's an offensive guy, so I think they are going to go offense. I do think there's a case for maybe Francis Mauigoa, but I want to see a little bit more because I was very impressed with him. I do think he's probably going to kick inside here as well too. It's tough to really tell with the Cardinals just because they had so many injuries on the offensive line, and then the quarterback play and just was not the year that they were looking for. So now, where is Michael Floor going to want to go? I do think it's going to be offensive. I know they says they don't want any receiver help here, but Marvin Harrison Jr. he is going into his third year. Hasn't really been the fourth overall pick that everybody is wanting him to be. Michael Wilson has panned out really well. This is where I do think it would be interesting, though, no matter what they do at the quarterback position, if they go and get a Jordyn Tyson here. I think this would be a very interesting round. I think to me, it's between Tyson or Maui Noah as of right now. So I'm going to go with Jordyn Tyson here. And the reason why I do that is they do have other good younger guys. I think they're good role players. But if they get a quarterback in there that meshes well with Marvin Harrison Jr. and also Michael Floor helps develop and utilize him well, then you go get Jordyn Tyson in there. And Michael Wilson's been a really good receiver. Definitely outplayed his expectations coming out of college. And I think that's could develop into a really good receiving trio room here, especially as you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out the quarterback spot.
Yeah. No, I agree. He would be a surefire top 5 pick, a top 3 pick, in my opinion, if it weren't for like some of the injury questions, because he's been injured every year, I
Well,
believe, except this past year.
and his hammies too, mainly. It's mainly
Yeah.
hammies.
Well, he had like some shoulder stuff that he was dealing with too. Like he's been banged up throughout his college career, and if it weren't for that, he's clearly the most talented receiver
Yeah.
in this class. And as much as I like Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate, Tyson really is like, he can beat you on a screen. He can run slants, outs, like
Well,
sluggos, anything, and beat you in every which way.
Well, and similarly though too is what I said, like with Mekhi Lemon going to the Jets. It's like I don't know. I mean, he's more of a slot guy, and there's going to be a bunch of slot guys that they could go and get in the second and third round. And that also could be
Yeah.
maybe a reason why you go with Maui Noah, because he's clearly the best offensive lineman in this class. And I think that, and you can move him around as well too,
Mhm.
if you need be. No, I'll take it back a little bit. I don't want to say clearly the best. I think he's the one with the highest ceiling as of right now. I think what people could say.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'll throw it over to you though for the fourth overall pick.
Yeah. So here, I think Rueben Bain would be a fantastic fit in Salah's defense. I think he loves those kind of meteor edge rushers. I think you look at what they have in San Francisco with like Nick Bosa. They just drafted Michael Williams this past season there for him as well. At this point, like David Bailey, I think could be that. He's just not that right now. He's 6'3", 250. I say that. I do think like he's been good enough on rundowns that I think Salah would be comfortable leaving him out there. I could also see them going Maui Noah simply because JC Latham is a big question mark. They need guard as well anyways. So like if Latham pans out and plays right tackle, which I don't think he will, then like Maui Noah can play right guard. Are you willing to take that risk here at 4 overall? So let's go with David Bailey because of just the positional value. I think it's a big risk, and I say this as a Patriots fan, ironically, taking somebody that could end up being a guard at 4th overall. And I think just the upside is there with David Bailey, that I think he's just so talented, one of the best pass rushers, like true pass rushers that we've
Yeah.
seen in a long time. So going with David Bailey here to the Titans.
Yeah, and that's what's unique even too with this draft class is there's not even if we go to the past couple of drafts, there's been a couple like surefire, like this guy's not going to fail. Like this guy's going to
Yeah.
be at minimum a good football player in the NFL. It's possible, like everybody we've drafted so far. I mean, there are clear flaws. Like Mendoza, I mean, it's hard for quarterbacks just to pan out, or like maybe they just become average, run of the mill.
Yeah.
Rueben Bain, the arm issue, as you talk, I say arm issue or whatnot. If he's got speed and power like that, I think he could do fine. But Tyson got the injuries, David Bailey as well too as his concerns. But that being said, though, these guys are clearly the top guys overall.
Yeah.
So moving
100%.
on though to the Giants at number 5, several other top guys I think that are still available. As I was sitting here thinking too, Caleb Downs, I think I really like him a lot. But I look at the secondary though, and I think John Harbaugh might want to focus his attention elsewhere. And I think just from his experience, this is this the first year actually Andrew Thomas has been healthy the whole year?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has.
and so even that alone too, you saw how the offensive line improved overall, just in his performance, which was a very low bar to beat, if we're being completely honest. Giants' offensive lines have been horrendous the past couple of years outside this year. I say all that, though, too. You still got Jermaine Illuminor. You still got Greg
Illuminor is
Career
a free
Jordan.
agent, to be
Well,
fair.
exactly. And so this is where I think Francis Mariano is going to come in, and this is where a guy I think he's already going to be more polished than Evan Neal ever was coming out of college, and he is definitely much more of a fit to kick inside. Should that be the case, then I know they tried to kick Evan Neal inside, I think for a little bit, but you also got to be a good offensive lineman in general. I say I'm being disrespectful to Evan Neal. I would never be an NFL in the offensive line. It's much tougher than it is, but I think Maui Noah is going to be better set up for success to just be at minimum a good NFL offensive lineman with the possibilities of being great. And I think that's a big need I think for Jackson Dart and as well too with his run blocking capabilities. What because he was a better with Dart back there and also to he is graded on PFF a little bit better pass blocking, but he's still a good run blocker though as well. Um,
Oh yeah.
and so I think that's what you're going to need for your young quarterback, Jackson Dart. Cam Scadaboo is going to come back. And I think that's going to be a very fun front seven on the offensive side of the ball with Maui Noah there, Andrew Thomas, if he stays healthy. I do like John Michael Schmitz at center too, as well. And so I think they're starting to put some of the pieces together there for this Giants team.
Yeah, no, I agree. We haven't really talked too much about the 2026 season yet, but I really think the Giants could do what the Patriots did this year. I think you look Philadelphia like clearly has some questions in that division. Jackson Dart showed a lot of promise. If he can just stop running his head into linebackers, I think that would serve him well. And like overall, like
That's not gonna change.
no, no. Actually, he was asked about it after the Patriots game because he just came back from concussion protocol before that one. Then, like the third play, he gets decked out of bounds, and which was a clean hit, to be fair. But a reporter asked him, he's like, "Are you going to change?" And he's like, "This is how I play football." Like, no.
Yeah.
And I was, but no, I think that they could be a really good team come 2026. Malik Neighbors is going to come back and be healthy, so. Here with the Cleveland Browns, you know, I think that they could go a lot of different ways in this draft, but I think this pick almost has to be a receiver. I whichever one you want to take, I think is fine. But this receiving core is really bad. I think that there are options at the end of the first round, whether it's Monroe Freeling, Caleb Lomu, Max Ihianachor from Arizona State, who just had a great Senior Bowl. However you want to invest in the offensive line later, I think is fine. But you have a premium pick here to go and get what could be a future wide receiver one. It depends on what style of wide receiver you want. With Todd Monken being the head coach, I'm going to go with Mekhi Lemon. I think he can be a much better version of what he was using Zay Flowers to be in that offense, and his yards after catch ability, ability to win any level of the field, I think is going to be something that they would love to utilize up there in Cleveland. And so I'm going to go with him here for the Cleveland Browns. I know I'm picking him over the Ohio State kid, but I think he's the better coach wide receiver pairing.
Yeah. I also think too he's actually going to fit better. I think with Shedeur Sanders if he is the quarterback. I think you should do not go back to Deshaun Watson. I think that'd be ridiculous. But that being said, though, Todd Monken has no commitment to Sanders, to Watson, or to whoever during this time. I think for Monken's sake, I also hope he's got kind of a long leash similar to how Stefanski had as well too, considering how much of a crazy show that was over there in Cleveland. But no, I think Mekhi Lemon's going to fit that difference exactly, and I think he's going to complement Jerry Jeudy well. I mean, they've got Cedric Tillman as well too. So I think he's the better option because to your point, I think he could be a number one guy. Well, I do think Carnell Tate. Not saying that it could be him, but could potentially fall into the role where he's going to be a really good number two, but you don't want to have to lean on him to be your number one guy. So here with Washington, so many different ways that they could end up going here. They could go offensive here. I do think it'd be interesting if they got maybe some other receiving weapons here, though. I know they traded for Deebo Samuel, but then it's like outside Terry McLaurin, their next best receivers, Luke McCaffrey, Zach Ertz toward his ACL. So what's that status going to be? He was also on the other side of 30 as well too. So to me, I think though, if there's a lot of different ways they can go there, and for me, I'm like, just who's the best player on the board? And like some positional need, yes, but also who's a guy that can come in and immediately just change, one side of the ball. And to me, I look at that, and that's Caleb Downs. I know they don't. It says they don't need safety here, but Caleb Downs can do so many different things for you. They could be free safety, could do strong safety. You can move him around the box. He could play nickel, and I think that's what's going to help out a lot. They have guys like Trey Amos, Mike Sanders, Trill. I think that there's going to be guys opportunities there. I think to utilize him in totally different in so many different ways for Dan Quinn and this defense. Very curious to hear the Washington Commanders' thoughts on that. But it's I mean, Arvell Reese, there's some risk. Sonny Styles, I mean, he's probably the best linebacker, but there's a lot of really good linebackers in this class if you want to address the linebacker position, which I totally get. There's other DBs as well too, but at the same time, though, if you want to address the secondary, Caleb Downs is just the best guy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about Caleb Downs now for like 2 or 3 years. He's just that stinking good.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was a true freshman, I think. Well, he's only 20. He's a true junior right now. So he was a true freshman 2 years ago when he really kind of first came onto the scene. And last year he was phenomenal. Yeah. This year he was in Matt Patricia's defense, and like they asked Matt Patricia, like, what are some of the differences between the defense you ran at New England and the defense that you run here at Ohio State? And he basically was like, really not much, because we have the players, especially like he called out Caleb Downs specifically and was like, he's just able to do so much that he allows us to rotate coverages and do very similar things.
And trying to interrupt, but to back up your point with what Matt Patricia was saying, in the snaps by alignment on PFF, D-line, this past year, Caleb Downs lined up D-line 44 times, slot 146 times, corner 9 times, box 241, deep 240. So he really, like, you can just move him around wherever you want.
Yeah. And he knows how to do everything. He's a great leader in the locker room as well. Like, this is just a franchise building pick here, I think, by Dan Quinn.
And I will say this, according to PFF, one of his worst games was against IU in the Big Ten Championship. Just want to throw that out there. So
yeah, that was not a good game for, I think, a lot of people, though.
Actually, no, just in general, that was a pretty, unless if you're a defensive lineman.
Yeah, and you bet the under.
And you bet the under. Yeah. And you bet on 2 missed field goals.
Yeah. I have a feeling we might have a run of Ohio State players go here, and I'm going to continue that with the New Orleans Saints. Carnell Tate, I think, joining Chris Olave down there, Carnell Tate wins down the field better than anybody in this class. He has the ability to, run outs and be a chain mover per se. He's not a possession receiver by any means, but I think you have Chris Olave, who is a phenomenal route runner, but he has had some injuries. I think there's a little bit of redundancy there, but you're adding a lot of speed, a lot of size to this receiver room. I could also go Jeremiah Love, also Sonny Styles. I forget who their linebacker is. It Demario Davis, who's been there for so long. He's like 36. I could also go Peter Woods.
I'll double check here.
But it's like Sonny Styles could potentially go down there and be, a replacement on the second level of that defense. But I'm going to go with Carnell Tate because I think, you have a young quarterback. Well, I say youngish quarterback in Tyler Shuck. You got rid of Rashid Shaheed. I think you go and kind of replace his down the field presence with Carnell Tate, but you also add in a much better all around receiver in that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that too, especially if you're Kellen Moore. You're like, no, I want to be an offensive minded coach. You saw shocking success with Tyler Shuck leading the way there. I admittedly, I think, even not to, I know I'm a Falcons fan, but even Saints fans too, even y'all had to be like, okay, what's this Tyler Shuck kid really going to do? And then we trade away Rashid Shaheed, and the offense did really well second half of the season. They were competing in a lot of games. He was still a rookie. There are clear flaws on that team, and one of which was no weapons really outside of Chris Olave. So here with Kansas City, if this board pans out the way that it is, Jeremiah Love is going to be a Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, in this situation, is there anybody else that would be of interest? I mean, they do need offensive line help. They could get some more defensive line depth, but they could go get other guys like that elsewhere. Jeremiah Love is, I think, up there in that category of different running backs like the Bijans, like the Saquon Barkley. He's a little bit different than both of those guys. He's definitely a little bit more of a physical runner. That all being said, though, too, it's massive upgrade overall for this Kansas City Chiefs team as a whole. And honestly, actually, I would say probably their biggest weakness. I mean, their
Yeah.
areas. I mean, Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, that might be their biggest weakness. But there's area on the defensive line that I like. A lot of that Chris Jones does bring it up a little bit, and so you're kind of relying on him, but still other good players as well too. Offensive line in general, I think, is piecing together well. They just had some serious injuries and some time out by some guys.
Yeah.
But running back room though is like no, Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are that combo is just not it. Like they can't even
Yeah.
money ball that anymore.
I think they had no runs over 20 yards by a running back this year. Maybe I'm misreading that stat, but maybe they had the fewest runs over 20 yards by running backs this year.
Potentially.
But I think that's exactly what you bring in Jeremiah Love to be. He's the 3-down back. He can catch well out of the backfield. He's a home run hitter. But then he's also like going to grind out those 3-4 yard carries that are just going to keep you in phase. And, especially with a quarterback coming off a torn ACL, a wide receiver room that likes to spread the ball around, and with an aging tight end, I think that's going to be the best thing that they can do, because it's going to give them more favorable matchups on the outside, is developing a strong running game. So here with the Bengals, I would love to go Caleb Downs if he makes it here. I think that is a possibility because he is a safety. Obviously, he went off the board here. I think corner is kind of in play. I don't know at this point if I would take the risk on Jermod McCoy. But they just need so much. I have to go with Peter Woods, because I think you saw flashes from Shamar Stewart at edge. I think this is a deeper edge class. You could also go Keldrick Falk, but I feel like that would be a little redundant with Shamar Stewart as well. But I think Peter Woods is, I don't want to say being forgotten in this class, but I think everybody pays so much attention to the wide receivers and the corners and the quarterbacks and the skill position players that people forget the big uglies in the middle, that that's where real football is played. And I think Peter Woods can come in and really kind of shore up some things in the middle for this Bengals defense, and hopefully start to rebuild this defense that once allowed them to go to a Super Bowl because they were so dominant against the run. So I think that's going to be the pick here for the Bengals. And he has good interior pass rush moves as well. But
oh yeah, no, I think for the Bengals, it's just throw the kitchen sink at the defense, just trying to figure something out. And then just hope that they can allow on average less than 28 points per game, because Joe Burrow, if he can stay healthy, they're putting up 35 a game. So it's just that's just what they're going to have to try and do, and they've had great success so far with defensive linemen from Clemson at Cincinnati there. So shout out Miles Murphy. But anyways, now with the Miami Dolphins picking at number 11 here, new head coach. What was the guy's name here? Jeff Hafley. DC from Green Bay, if I'm not mistaken there. So lot of questions, just in general, a lot of questions. We're going to learn a lot more about Miami on the direction that they're going to go here over the next couple months. What do they do with Tua? What are they going to do with some of these contracts signings here as well? And actually, even too, I see Tua, they still have him on IR on our lands. Is that what it is?
Is he still? I don't know. I saw a report today that the Dolphins might cut him at the end of the year.
Oh, no, sorry. I couldn't find him because they have him at the third string. So our lads is assuming he's not going to be there. So it's going to be interesting what they want to do with the quarterback spot. Do you want to go with Quinn Ewers, Zach Wilson combo? That is a very interesting personality room in the quarterback in general. So the receiver spot as well too. What's going to happen with Tyreek Hill, Jayden Waddle? I mean, there's so many different ways that they could end up going with this here. So for me, I do think you want to get a guy that you think it is going to be able to come in and do extremely well. Typically, I will say, if I'm remembering correctly, in Green Bay they've run more of a 4-3 style defense. So typically have or which can lean then into nickel if you'd want. And so for me, I know we've debated this. I like Sonny Styles more right now than I do Arvell Reese. And I think that's just going to be a more consistent guy that can come in and hit with your first pick as a head coach, and you're going to have a whole new regime. I think they even got a new GM as well, too. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure they did. Yes.
Yeah.
I know
they actually fired their GM, I think, mid-season.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I
and
remember
then
correctly.
they waited a couple days until firing Mike McDaniel after the season. So
Yeah.
I think if you come in, I think Sonny Styles is going to be more of a sure thing. I mean, nobody's a sure thing, especially in this draft class. But I think he's more of a sure thing than if you go with Arvell Reese here. I know Arvell Reese has fallen a little bit for us, but I think that's a possibility just with his skill
Ye
sets, but and his strengths and weaknesses. And I
yeah.
think Miami coming in, you go get Arvell Reese. You go and look at this defensive line that they have set up. They have Kenneth Grant, who didn't have the best rookie year, but I think he's going to keep on improving. You have Chop Robinson that's still there. Um, they have some linebackers there that I think he can learn from, but also like if you still want to give him some reps, not immediately come in and be the starter. So I think that's gonna be a route that they more go there. I could see them going Mansfield to Lane. They could potentially address the offensive line if there's gonna be some guys like Spencer Fanu that could kick in as well. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm gonna go with Sony Styles here on
Okay.
this Miami Dolphins pick.
I think that's a good pick. I think addressing the second level of that defense, the defensive line did play better towards the end of the year,
Yeah.
but we'll have to see, as this new head coach comes in, how he's going to implement that system. But I think addressing the second level, I like Sonny Styles in a little bit more of like the pure linebacker. He's going to be the green dot most likely
Well,
uh,
exactly.
on this defense. So he's going to be the communicator and getting the
And
right play call in. Oh, go ahead.
he misses significantly less assignments than Arvell Reese would. Arvell Reese is just a freak athlete, like
Yeah.
absolutely freakish athlete.
Arvell Reese to me is like the ultimate QB spy. Like, I don't really want him more than 5 to 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage, but I
Yeah.
want him, coming downhill with a purpose. And I actually am not gonna mock him here to the Cowboys. I just don't think that would be a fit for how they want to run. I'm actually gonna mix it up. I go back and forth here. I like Keldrick Falk. I think he might be a little bit of a tweener, and he might like really thrive as like a true defensive end that's going to kick in on third downs to be like have a outside linebacker on the outside of him. And I don't think Dallas really does that enough for it to be worth it. So I'm actually going to go with a guy that maybe it's a little high for him, but I think Akeem Messidor is exactly what the Cowboys need. He's a very physical edge rusher. He's going to be on the field for all three downs. He's not big enough to really like kick in to be like a true, like, kind of play that three technique or like a 4-eye. And I think he is just going to be the every down edge rusher that this defense needs. He's going to be stout against the run as well. He's one of the best, if not the best, run defending edge rusher in this class. And he's a really good athlete, and especially for his size. So maybe it's a little rich, but I think we're really going to start to see some of these guys separate themselves over the course of the next couple months. And I think he's going to be a guy that teams are going to be willing to spend a little bit of a higher pick at, just because I think he's going to come in and be NFL ready and be a 3-down player from day one.
Yeah, exactly. Especially too as well, you saw that like paired it with Rueben Bain, and there's other guys now too that can keep on developing in Dallas that where they could have a good 1-2 punch overall in that edge rush room, and maybe try and moneyball that way approach to replacing all the sacks that Micah Parsons had. And so here with the Los Angeles Rams, then I think then for me pretty similar though to for like the Chiefs where I don't want to say there's not a specific player, but I do think since this is a luxury pick from the Atlanta Falcons, I think running and taking like the top corner off the board is going to be like is going to be what they're going to do here. That's an area I think of clear need
Yeah.
for this team. With a team that doesn't have too many weaknesses, for being honest, the only one of the biggest weaknesses might just be age. If they could just keep Matt Stafford the same age, I think they would do that forever.
Yeah.
But to me, though, it's Jermon McCoy is going to be very interesting just on how he tests, how he looks, just because we haven't seen him play in over a year. But so because of that, though, then I'm going to go with Mansfield Lane.
Yeah.
Then on top of this, I think that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting here, especially too with him being in man coverage. I think that's going to be something that's going to help out a lot. If you go look at the division that they go and play, and the head coaches and the style of offenses that they're going to be going up against on a regular basis. So I'm going to go with Mansfield Lane here on this one. If you like Jermon McCoy, then put Jermon McCoy there in your
Yeah.
head. I think either way, it's more the positional. They're going to go after the top corner here.
Yeah, I am really curious. And granted, like Will Johnson had a hip injury that was supposedly pretty bad, but like Jermon McCoy did not play at all in 2025. Neither did Will Johnson in 2024 for Michigan. And granted, it's a torn ACL versus like an undisclosed hip injury, so that's a little bit more ominous for
Yeah.
Will Johnson. But I am curious if we see a little bit of a slide in Jermon McCoy's draft stock, just because like he did miss a full year for this injury. Maybe he'll take part in the combine, and like his physicals with teams will go over better than Will Johnson's did. But I could potentially see a slide for Jermon McCoy because of that reason. So here with the Baltimore Ravens, I'm really curious. You know, they bring in Jesse Minter. I don't know if Arvell Reese is really his type of linebacker. I also think you look at his edge rushers like Tuli Pelotu, Khalil Mack, and then Odafe Owe. Those are all guys that are 265 plus, if not more. And I actually think that Keldrick Falk is the type of edge rusher that he might be really smitten with, because like Tuli, I don't know what is Tuli Pelotu's weight.
I thought he was 260.
I guess he's 266.
Yeah.
So I guess he likes those guys that are in the 265 range. So maybe I won't go with Keldrick Falk. That makes this a little bit more interesting because I was going to go with him there.
For edge rushers specifically?
Not edge rushers.
You could go TJ Parker out of Clemson.
Yeah.
I think that could be one. You could maybe have some fun and really now our Mason Thomas is a little too light there. Let's see this here.
Who's their offensive coordinator?
The Ravens?
Yeah.
Who'd they hire? I actually just saw an announcement on that today.
Declan Doyle.
Yep. I think they just hired him today, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That report was 7 hours ago. From the Bears. The name that popped out to me was Denzel Boston in the wide receiver room. I think he could potentially go here. I'm also, I know Arvell Reese is not like his style linebacker, but that's good value. Let's do Denzel Boston. I think they need that outside X receiver. I think, you know, Declan Doyle coming from Chicago,
Okay.
Rome Odunze has been playing very well in that offense. I think Boston is a little bit bigger, and maybe not quite as elusive, but for a guy that big and for him to have lined up in the slot out wide, they even lined him up in the backfield at times to get him in some favorable matchups. I think that could be a pick. You also look, Zay Flowers is going to hit free agency. And I think the last thing I'll say, and then I'll actually submit the pick, but very good run blocker at the wide receiver position as well. And I think that especially with Derrick Henry getting older and some questions with this offensive line, that could be another useful skill set with him there as well.
Yeah, no, for the Ravens here, with Denzel Boston, he's kind of another interesting one because he is, to me, I think, lumped in that second wave of receivers, which will span all the way to like the middle of the third round. It's like, where are those guys going to go? Like, now I'm not saying Denzel he's going to be probably one of the first ones in that wave, but still, though, I could also see a possibility where he doesn't go till late first round as well too. So I can see the fit there. I'm really glad you picked him there because I think this is a very real scenario. But I also think too, if you're the Buccaneers, you are sprinting to the podium to get Arvell Reese here.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that just because it is really good value and because of his specs and everything like that. I honestly really like a lot of the picks that we have made so far up to this point, though. But I say this, though, by a scheme fit, Arvell Reese is perfect to match up against Bijan Robinson. He's perfect to match up against Alvin Kamara. He's perfect to just QB spy Bryce Young, go and tackle Chuba Hubbard. Those are where his strengths are going to be as of right now. His weaknesses are going to be ones that are going to be dropping back into zone. So when you have a 3-4 defense like Tampa Bay, where you got Vita Vea, is he the biggest guy in the league. Actually,
I
he's
don't know if
got to
he's
be
the
up there.
biggest. He might be the strongest.
He's probably the strongest, most explosive there. And I like too.
Yeah.
He wears no tapes, no gloves, no nothing. Like he just
Yeah.
goes and just bear claws these guys here. 347. So no, that's not the biggest, but he's probably the strongest there. So you have him taking up so much attention over the middle. Then you just got this super fast, athletic kid now on the outside helping out. You got Yaya
Yeah.
Diaby on the other side as well too. You have Hassan Reddick who's getting up there in age as well too. So I think getting this pick now allows him to develop into a potential linebacker, like how we've talked about with Sonny Styles. While at the same time, though, too, you go and utilize him in the same vein that Falcons used Jalen Walker, and this is about the same pick as well. I think the
Yeah.
Falcons were 16th when they
Yeah.
picked Jalen Walker.
Yeah. And that's like, I will say, like, he probably should go higher than this. My biggest concern with him is I feel like teams are going to try to line him up as like a traditional linebacker. And
Well,
they're just not going to know like what they're not going to know what to actually do with a player of his skill set. And I think that might turn a lot of teams off from him because he is a unique skill set. He's great at it and he's a great athlete, but he's just a unique player.
and that's why I actually don't think I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. And it's nothing against Arvell Reese or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that's where it's like my reasoning for Sonny Styles though is and it's unique to Miami, but he is more NFL ready, like to play the NFL style of game now by reading defenses, reading coverages, reading defenses, or sorry, reading offenses. I think I said that twice, anyways. But then Arvell Reese is like Arvell Reese is a borderline edge rusher, pretty much. He
Yeah.
can just do it from anywhere on the line,
Yeah.
and so and he's much faster than like your traditional edge rusher, like a TJ Watt for example, or well, Miles Garrett's more the traditional defensive end. But no, I think Arvell Reese here going to Tampa Bay is a good pick, and I don't like that for Atlanta.
Yeah. That's how you know it's a good pick is
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
your division rival does not like it. So here with the Jets, they took Rueben Bain second overall. I'm tempted to go Jermon McCoy here, but I do feel like Aaron Glenn is kind of on his last leg already. I think that's a risky pick to make for him. Uh the other pick that I was thinking might be even riskier. I was kind of thinking Ty Simpson. Is this a Ty Simpson spot? Um but oh
That would continue the trend of first round quarterbacks that got their head coach fired in their first year.
man.
Because that's
Fair.
not that's probably not going to happen with Mendoza, Clint Kubiak, and the Raiders.
Oh no, 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 no. I don't think so. I'm trying to think of what other options are here. I mean, the Jets do need a lot. I do think CJ Allen would be interesting because like CJ Mosley is getting older and that linebacking room really needs a guy. I think Vega Yawane could be an interesting one because Elijah Vera Tucker is always injured, but also a free agent. So is it John Simpson as
Mhm.
well? Let's do Ty Simpson because I think that is. I think the Jets need to take a swing on a quarterback. It does remind me a little bit of the Jackson Dart pick. I know Jackson Dart had 2 seasons starting at Ole Miss versus Ty Simpson's just one, and also Jackson Dart played at USC before that. And I do think like the talent is there with Ty Simpson. I think the Jets are going to want to, kind of make their claim at the quarterback position. And I think Ty Simpson could be that guy. I think also too, I think him declaring for the draft was a clear signal that NFL teams were telling him that, like you will probably get taken somewhere in the first round if you declare. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're the Jets, it does work out. You go get Ruben Bain, and then you go get a first round quarterback. And at the same time, though, too, as well, uh, little risk. I mean, there's some like, no, I would say little risk overall too, because then if things don't
yeah,
pan out, then Aaron Glenn does get fired. Then a new regime is going to come in, and you're probably in the same spot, anyways. With next year, with even more draft picks, and also even to a better draft class as a whole. So, I can see the logic there, especially too if you go and get Ruben Bain. But I think it is, to your point, a little interesting conundrum, like on which way they want to go here. So,
yeah,
here with Detroit, looking back, and I think the thing that I definitely noticed though too was just one on the injuries, but more on the offensive side of the ball, particularly on the offensive line side. And I I think one thing as well too, Taylor Decker's been around for some time there. Panay Sewell is still one of the best tackles in the league, but they do need to start preparing for a scenario though when Decker moves on and it's Panay Sewell, and he's probably going to kick over to right tackle. So Ryan, you're going to like this one here. I think it's going to be the first time we've shouted out this guy. There's a lot of other different ways. I mean, like Monroe Freeling, I think would be interesting as he's playing left tackle at Georgia, and has shown really good on film. But I'm going to go with the guy. He had a good Senior Bowl. Max Heinecker, tackle out of Arizona State here. I think his athleticism is going to be something that, and this is a pick as you are developing this kid. Like this is going to be off the ceiling side as well too. Maybe a little bit high, I think, as of right now, but the first time bringing him up to the channel. But I also think though too as well, if you're the goal of this is Panay Sewell is going to kick over to left tackle. You keep him there at right tackle with how young he is, and how athletic he is, and then start to rebuild that offensive line from the ground up, anchoring around Panay Sewell's experience. So I think
Yeah.
I would rather go that route and have Panay Sewell kick over, and we know that he can go and do that. Than with and a guy with high ceiling. Then some of these other guys, maybe as of right now, Monroe Freeling's the one, but he's already playing left tackle. So everybody else though, Fanu, Kana Proctor, Caleb Lomu, I think are probably kicking in the guard in general though. So,
Yeah.
but Ryan, first time bringing him up on the channel, what are your thoughts on Max and this pick here?
Oh, I've been watching him since the beginning of the year. I have been so impressed with his development from last year to this year. I'm very glad he showed out at the Senior Bowl the way he did, because it's just very rare that you find tackles that have the footwork that he does, and he really has the traits to be a top 5 tackle in the league. And if you built a tackle in a lab, it honestly might be him. Like, and uh, I think he is still a little bit raw, but in pass protection, he had 484 pass blocking reps, and he didn't allow a single sack, only 11 hurries,
Yeah.
and just a phenomenal player. So I think that's a really good pick for the Lions here. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings, because I think this is another really interesting spot. It does sound like they could potentially move on from their center, who they just signed from the Colts,
Ryan Kelly.
Ryan Kelly, and then also Brian O'Neill, the right tackle, is a potential option that they could move on from. So I think Spencer Fanu is a potential pick here. There isn't really a running back that I would take here, especially after the Senior Bowl. Like, there's Mike Washington from Arkansas that I really liked. Jonah Coleman is a good one on day 2 that I think you could take. So I'm gonna wait on that. Center is not an option here. You could go corner. I still think it's a big risk to go Jermod McCoy. So I'm going to go with a guy I like, Avion Terrell. I think his physicality and just kind of ferociousness that he plays with, I think Brian Flores is really going to like. They gave Brian Flores a big contract to kind of come back here, come back to Minnesota and be the defensive coordinator for another year. So I think Avion Terrell, they need to upgrade that secondary, especially in that division. And I think Avion Terrell is going to be a good pick for them to go and do that.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's Minnesota's in a very interesting spot here as well too. Because I've also heard, I don't know how true the reports are, but like they're in the trading for a quarterback market as well too. I'm trying to see where things pan out there. I think that'd be too early to move on JJ McCarthy, but it's going to be interesting just to see where the direction of Minnesota's going, because they're also kind of picking a no man's land here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of guys that don't pan out in the NFL when you're picking here in the late teens. So moving on to Carolina, the unfortunate winners of the NFC South, even though they did almost beat the Rams, to be fair. So to me here, yeah, it's interesting, like with receiver being the number one option, because they do have Ted McMillan, but at the same time, though, too, I don't know if they have a receiver problem, but I do think it's going to be a quarterback issue. And so this is going to be a big year for Bryce Young. And I think it could be safe to say that they want to give him more weapons and then even prepare for like post Bryce Young if that is the case. But here at the 19th overall pick, though. I don't really know who would be available. I don't really like Casey Concepcion in this fit with Dave Canales. And I think there's other receivers they can go and get in the second round. So I'm leaning towards the defensive side of the ball here. And with them running kind of this 3-4, they did get Nick Scorton in the draft, but how did he even end up doing? He did well, sorry. But I do still think continue to keep on it, improving in that front seven as a whole. Maybe even getting a little bit more depth in the secondary could be something they address. But for me, I just think just watching him just with his speed, I think it's gonna be very interesting, especially if their front three can get a lot of good interior pressure there. He could get put on some islands there. But I'm gonna go with Cassius Howell here
Okay.
on this one. A lot of different ways they could end up going here. I think Caleb Banks maybe could be a guy. TJ Parker isn't really the entire fit of what they're looking for here. But I am going to go with Cassius Howell here because I think he's going to bring some good speed off the edge.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be a good pick. You'd have him, Nick Scorton, Princely Uman Mielen as well, was drafted last year. So, yeah, I think they definitely could uh, draft him there. The thing that kind of cracks me up about him and like it reminds me a little bit of the Will Campbell conversation of like he's a great edge rusher. He just has short arms. And it's like, well, if he's a great edge rusher, then like that doesn't really matter to me. So
Yeah.
I think that he's gonna go probably right around this range as well. And if he falls, I think a team is just gonna get a steal a little bit later. So here with the Cowboys at 20, I believe, yeah, they picked Akeem Messidor with their first pick. Maybe with the luxury pick from Green Bay, you take Jermod McCoy. I don't know if there's anything else. Linebacker, you could go CJ Allen. Let's go CJ Allen. I think he's a little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent, but he's a younger player. But he can be a cornerstone in the middle of that defense. And I think with how bad this defense was this past year, let's double up here, really address this front seven and hope that it can improve for them here in 2026. And if they can do that with how well they can run the ball, and then if they can bring back George Pickens, man, this could be a formidable Cowboys team. But maybe the
I
best
like it.
we've seen in a long time. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting there too. I mean, I know it was a big deal when they traded Micah Parsons, but at the same time, though, too, it's defense definitely improved throughout the year. Offense, well, it was one of the better offenses in the league. It's just they just had no help from the defensive side of the ball, and so I think they get a little bit better. No, they had a good running game as well too. So it's offensively, I think they were above average, if not
oh
borderline
yeah,
elite.
they were very
I
explosive on offense.
Yeah, and so that defense though, they had to score 40 points a game. So here with Pittsburgh, a lot of questions still, and once again, we're now in the Aaron Rodgers waiting period. I know they've talked about that that was probably his final year. I am curious with them hiring Mike McCarthy if he would maybe want to run it back one more time, especially too now that he got the taste of the playoffs there. And it's going to be interesting as well too with the division that they are in. I mean, Cleveland's going to be having a new head coach, and there's a lot of problems going on there, just in general. Baltimore's going to be having their new head coach, and so just a change. And typically, when we have typically, I know this year is kind of actually an exception, like with Liam Cohen and also too with Mike Vrabel making their way to the playoffs. And even too, I know second year head coach Mike McDonald now is also with Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs. But typically, though, there is like an adjustment period when there's changes in head coaches and
Yeah.
coordinators that can allow for some time to understand how everybody works together. So I say all that it is maybe an opportune time if he does want to run it back one more year. And I think receivers is a spot that they will absolutely address in this draft class. But here though, I am I'm puzzled overall. This one might be a Dramon McCoy only just because I think they have to do it.
Yeah.
I think they have to do it with Jalen Ramsey's age. I know he was playing more nickel there, but I think he could be a guy because once again too as well they have some really good young pieces. They just need some development. Like if you go look at this offensive line, I know they need tackles, but Broderick Jones he needs to develop a little bit more. But they have their center, right guard, and right tackle were all taken in the 2024 draft as well too. They had Derek Harmon, who had an interesting start to the season just with for personal issues, but he's going to keep on developing on the defensive side of the ball. Had some other good guys step up during some absences of some veterans on the defensive side of the ball, and there are still some good, I think, pieces in the secondary, but that's going to be the area I think that they really are going to need to address. And I think Jamal McCoy falling this far is, I think, worth the pick overall, even with some of the question marks of his injury there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he's just at this point too good of a player to pass on when you have a need in the secondary. It's a risk that they're gonna have to take. So
Yeah,
uh here with the Chargers, this one I hate to be chalk on this, but like Vega Yamane, best guard in the draft. They need guards. They need an offensive line so bad. I would not be surprised if they took 3 interior offensive linemen in this draft. And I think he immediately comes in and is probably their best interior offensive lineman. And like I don't think they look back. I understand they might like Caleb Banks or Keldrick Falk or Cade McDonald and really want to like be a little bit more stout on the defensive front. I don't know. Like they don't need to be because they were top 5 defense this past year, but apparently Harbaugh was all over Caleb Banks at the Senior Bowl. But the biggest thing they need to address is this offensive line because they're going to get their 2 tackles back. But if that interior is still bad, they're going to have a tough time. And so I think Vega Yawane comes in and is, starting right guard for them.
yeah, I can see that, and definitely too as well. You're going to have Mike McDaniel coming back, not coming back, coming there to be the
Yeah.
OC. You're going to need to protect Justin Herbert because I think I'm really looking forward to watching this Chargers offense with Justin Herbert. I think now having his best offensive coordinator or just potential offensive system that he's been in throughout his entire career, I feel like. Just with all the pieces that they have with a healthy offensive line, because even to the start of the year when that offensive line was healthy,
Mhm.
healthy-ish, even because Rashawn Slater never played, uh, they were able to do a lot of fun things. Like, and if that offensive line was able to stay healthy, Martin Hampton was able to stay healthy. I think the Chargers could have been one of those teams that they could have made a very deep run, but injuries just got to them. So here with the Philadelphia Eagles, it's very interesting here too because they still have. If you just go look at their starting lineup, still I think one of the better starting lineups, and all very young as well too. And so even to that offensive line, actually, yeah, I know they drafted Cameron Williams last year as well, but they have him as a third string behind Fred Johnson um, on our lads. So I do think it is going to be of interest to look at like a future Lane Johnson replacement as well too. They did get a new OC that's going to help out a bunch. Yeah, there's nobody else here. I actually, you know what? I am going to go with I I'm going to go with the sneaky one. I think no, he was in the first round last time here, but I do think somebody that could go and develop and be very interesting is, and I think he'd fit the skill set very well with what they already have here. But another Alabama receiver, Jeremy Bernard. I'm going to go with him here. One of the reasons why is I they traded for Jahan Dotson. He's a good piece. Devontae Smith is, I think, a good complementary. I mean, he's one of the better receivers in the league. AJ Brown is going to be that more X receiver as well too. Curious to see what happens overall, but I still think though as well where this game fits really well though is when they're able to run that play action because they're going to improve tremendously next year in the running game, not to what they were in 2024, but when they do that though, then Jalen Hurts is going to have guys that, and he's got to play better. But I think getting some more receiving weapons for this Philadelphia offense is going to help out. I think in the overall offensive production as a whole. And Jeremy Bernard, I think, is going to be able to one improvise well in this offense system. I guess Jalen Hurts rolls out or if guys aren't open. And on top of that, though, too, I think he's going to fit well in like a play action rolling out or crossing schemes.
Yeah, he's not the most like explosive guy, but he's the smooth, fast
Yeah.
type of receiver. And I think there are rumors that they might move on from AJ Brown. Jeremy Bernard can line up in a number of slots. He's great in contested catch situations. He can separate with his routes, and he can get yards after the catch. And so I think that that's a good spot. I'm really curious to see. I think after you get outside of the top three, I have seen like wide receiver rankings all over the place on
Well,
like that next tier.
yeah.
And I think it's going to be really interesting to see like which wide receivers teams actually like, because like Jeremy Bernard could be in almost top 20, like, or I can honestly see him go at the top of the third round. Like it really just depends on what flavor these teams are looking for.
Well, and that's where too, like with the Philadelphia Eagles, it's like that's what's so unique with picking this and then like this first overall pick, doing their mock drafts, because on paper I like their entire starting lineup. I
Yeah.
mean, like, there's no reason really why this team should be any different than the team that won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, not really much has changed. From that Super Bowl winning. I mean, like, Mekhi Becton moved on. Yes, I think there was somebody else on the defensive side of the ball. But
Milton Williams left.
Milton
Darius
Williams,
Slay left. Um,
yeah, so
they
they
lost
could
some
be
pieces.
they, yeah. I guess it's fair to say Darius. Like I feel like but they replaced all those pieces like with this young secondary that they have, led by Quinion
Yeah.
Mitchell and everything. And so actually I'm trying to remember if Darius Slay, that was James Bradbury that didn't play that big of a part because he got hurt overall. But
Yeah.
that's what's so interesting with where the Eagles go. It's like I still think they're going to be best player available. Who's going to be the best guy on their board? And I think maybe Kenyon Sadiq, like for example, I know I didn't go him there, but just if you're looking at explosiveness, a guy that could fit well within the system, maybe that's the route that they go and can help on run blocking. So who knows though? The Eagles to me, I still on paper, I have to go see how they play next year. Um, I still believe could be one of the top teams and a
Oh, for
potential
sure.
favorite to go and win the Super Bowl.
They have kind of done this too, where it's like they're relevant a year, and then the next year they're like mid, and then they're relevant the year after. So like this could just be the cycle that they're kind of in, where they like have to go through a retooling year. So
Yeah.
here with the Browns, I'm really tempted to just take Keldrick Falk and call it a day, because I think that the talent at this point is really a really good value. But I do think that right now the need on the offensive line probably trumps the value that they would get in taking Keldrick Falk here. Especially, I'm a really big fan of Monroe Freeling. So we talked a little bit about Max
Hmm.
Ianachor, however you say his last name, in his feet. Monroe Freeling is a former basketball player, and like you can really see it when he vertical drops and when he gets out in his stance. Like he looks like he's playing defense on basketball. And it's a really cool thing to kind of watch and see the skills translate. But he's very light on his feet. He plays with an edge to him that I think you want in your offensive lineman. And I really like him overall. And when you have Shador back there, if DeJuan Jones can stay healthy, you pair him up with Monroe Freeling, and then you can go and get a guard or two later in the draft because they have a ton of picks. I think that they could really start to retool this offensive line. But I'm going to go with Monroe Freeling because I think one, I think he can start very early on in his career, and two, I think it fills outside of receiver probably the biggest need on this team, and that's at left tackle. So
Yeah. No, I like that one. He's been a guy that's been coming up more,
yeah,
and so definitely with that athletic posture as well. So final 8 picks. Let's rapid fire these here. So for Chicago, to me, I think that checks out. I do think it is going to be everything defense. They really hit a lot of great picks here. With
yeah,
like Luther Burden, Colson Loveland, Kyle Monungai, even Oz Trapillo as well too. But that's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. It's his leg injury going into the 2026 season. But for me though, I they got Grady Jarrett in free agency, but he is also up there in age as well too. I know they've got some guys from like the 2023 draft class, and they drafted Shamar Turner, um, in last year's class. But even to me though, I think you go and get Takeda McDonald. Uh, I think similar to some of the other Ohio State guys, I think he's going to be a great run stuffer. But then also too, I think with good upside as well to keep on developing. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with Caden McDonald here on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. They need to shore up the middle there, in especially in that division and in the playoffs. I think we really saw the Rams kind of take advantage of that run defense. So
Yeah,
here,
one of the worst run defenses and yards allowed per game in the
yeah,
league.
yeah. So here with the Bills, I'll look at the wide receivers here for a second. I'm just not the biggest KC Concepcion fan. I also feel like for the Bills, it's a little redundant with Khalil Shakir, Chris Bell
Yeah,
coming off a torn ACL. I think Omar Cooper could be really good for them. Um, I just think maybe they wait, and Keldrick Falk at this point is just way too good a value. Uh, they like the bigger edge rushers there. Like Greg Rousseau is 265, I think 270. I know Joey Bosa is getting older and probably not coming back in free agency. But then I think you have him, Deion Walker, and what's his name? Uh, Ed Oliver there. I think that's a really good run defense front. And I think he can contribute a little bit on third downs, and he's also only 20 years old, so he's only going to get better, I think, from here. They need wide receivers so bad, but I also think that Keldrick Falk fills a need on that defense, which is being able to stop the run. So I don't necessarily love the fit, and I would love to take a receiver here, but I think the value is just too great with Keldrick Falk at this point, especially for a team that needs run defense help.
yeah, I can see that. I Yeah, it's the Bills. Their issues. I mean, there's going to be a lot of great second, third round receivers. I think that can go and uh, complement this system a lot. But it's just going to be later on in the draft. I think there's some guys like C.J. Daniels, Skylar Bell. I think guys that could go and develop here. One guy that's not going to be available is going to be the Indiana Hoosier Omar Cooper Jr. I think I'm really interesting to see how he does in a Kyle Shanahan system. Also, too, if you go look at just his size, the way he plays as well, too, similar to Debo Samuel, and Indiana did that a lot in some reverse end arounds as well, too. He's a great run blocker, just great all around player. So he's going to be, I think, a little bit more on that. He's not going to be the traditional X receiver. That being said, if he lines up outside, a lot of those are going to be more inside post routes. But the way that Kyle Shanahan creates space with his receivers there as well too, I think he's going to fit really well within that system and just be a great complementary role piece. A lot of different ways the San Francisco team can go, but one of the clear areas is going to be like people need to be able to catch the ball from Brock Purdy here. And Rise right now, I mean, they were really struggling and going deep into the well of guys in that playoff run. So I'm gonna go with Omar Cooper here. In a lot of different ways they could end up going here. This is, I will say, I know this is a big IU channel. This is probably the ceiling for Omar Cooper. Maybe he does go to Buffalo, but once again, though, too, I don't know. I don't see him being nearly as successful there in Buffalo just because Omar Cooper is not going to be like, he's not going to be a clear number one. He's going to do great in a system where it is receiver by committee. And that's what the San Francisco 49ers have. I think Omar Cooper would be great in Green Bay, for example, or maybe in like with the Los Angeles Rams as that number 3 receiver.
Yeah.
With Monte Adams or Puka Nacua, but where there's a lot of flowing motion there and where the coaches are able to scheme guys open. He's not going to be that CD Lamb, that Nico Collins, so to say, where it's like, no, this is like our number one main guy, and that's pretty much it. Or the JSN for Seattle.
Yeah. So like personally, I think he could be that. But I saw a comp the other day that I actually think makes a lot of sense for him, and it's Rashee Rice and what he kind of does for the Chiefs, where he is like kind of the explosive gadget player. He's going to get 10 11 catches a game, and like great after the catch. I don't know if he's like the biggest down the field threat in terms of like he's going to burn you with speed, but he's a nuanced route runner. He's very good at finding like soft spots and zones, and he's really hard to bring down. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good pick for them there, especially, Brandon Ayuk is leaving. They no longer have Deebo Samuel. Jawan Jennings is a free agent. I will say he's about 15 pounds lighter than Deebo, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Here with the Texans, there are a couple things, a couple ways I think they could go. Obviously, interior offensive line, I think, is going to be a big one. They do have, I think, a few picks later where they might be able to address that. I think here, if I were to go that route, Emmanuel Pregnon is going to be the guy. I don't think Caleb Banks is really on their in their territory. I also am not super high on him as a prospect. I could see them potentially go Spencer Fanu, see if he works out at right tackle, because Trent Brown is old. And if he doesn't work out, he could kick into guard potentially. But I'm actually going to go a different route. I'm going to go the explosive tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. I think that overall, he is just a phenomenal pass catcher. And I think Dalton Schultz is probably not coming back. He's an underrated run blocker. It doesn't really fill the need here, but I really like what he might be able to do in the system because he doesn't play like Rob Gronkowski, but in the way that Rob Gronkowski affected the game, I think Kenyon Sadiq could be that inline wide tight end because he's that good of a blocker. But then you could also line him up at the X receiver and pull a linebacker out of the box and see if he can win one-on-one with a go ball because he's that good of an athlete. And so I think that that's going to be a really fun matchup there, especially Nico Collins lines up all over the place. They have Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, Christian Kirk is there. And I think on days 2 and 3, this is going to be a very heavy offensive draft for them. That's I think where you can find really good value, like Logan Jones at center. If you don't like Jake Andrews, you can find JC Davis, who's a tackle. It's probably going to kick into guard Cage Casey. Like there are so many other guys at that point in the draft that I think you could get good value with. That I think it's worth taking Kenyon Sadiq here and just adding an explosive weapon to this offense.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, and I think the logic then too, as well, is there's not too many good interior offensive line guys now. Let's just take the best player available, knowing that there's going to be other guys coming up later, and you can hit that heavy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of some guys who I think you can go and develop. And so here with the Rams, with their second pick in the 1st round, their original pick, they took Mansour Delane with the 13th overall pick here, and I'm honestly even I wouldn't be surprised maybe if they doubled up with corner here as well, just with the way that this board has been falling. But that also being said, though, too, I do think just keep on getting some more pieces on that offensive line and keep helping there. And a guy like Spencer Fanu falling here, I think makes sense, especially too on the right side of the ball. He's probably going to be the one that kicks in to guard. And I think even too they have Kevin Dotson as the right guard as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rams offensive line is good. But there are some pieces, though, that are getting a little bit up there in age and maybe could improve on. Rob Havenstein is obviously the one I'm talking about there. And Spencer Fanu being right tackle. And he's also free agent, too, as well. So I think that could be an area there. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting on where else, because I really like this front 7. Like they could obviously get some more depth picks, but even too, they're so young in that front 7. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on the starting front 7 were drafted within the past 2 years or 3 years, I should say. So they're pretty young already there, and then they even have other guys that they in the 2nd, 3rd string as well too in that front 7 that they drafted within the past year or 2. So it's obviously keep on adding more to the well, but I think that they've really done well and hit on some great picks there. So that's where it's going to be. Wouldn't be surprised if they maybe doubled up again on secondary.
Yeah, I think they could. I mean, they really have nothing on that side. Sorry, they don't have nothing. I don't think they have anything that's like if a corner falls here, like it's not worth taking because we don't want to replace this guy. Well, I think that's the best way to phrase it.
Well, and especially too, what's stopping them right now from being in the Super Bowl versus not is being able to cover JSN and the Seattle Seahawks offense. Now,
Yeah.
Seahawks are losing Clint Kubiak, their offensive coordinator, so they're mastermind of that. To be fair, with that being said, though, too, it's like they're still going to have to go up against JSN and his skill set. Seahawks are probably going to add another receiver here, in the first two rounds that could come in and be very effective. So it's like they're going to need to find guys in secondary that can cover these guys.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like this front seven is very good. This secondary, I think, is what's, like you said, is what really is holding them back. So secondaries that are not holding teams back are on the Denver Broncos. Pat Surtain and Riley Moss, one of the best corner duos in the league. They're up next year at pick 30. This is a tough one, because I really don't know what to do for them. I think they could go so many different ways. Um, I think this is where you start to entertain like other players. Like Jadarian Price, I think is interesting. Jonah Coleman might be the better pick, but I feel like again, like you see where those guys are ranked. Obviously, PFF rankings have nothing to do with like real draft team rankings. Um, but like you could probably get similar value on day 2 to what you're going to spend with this pick. Um, man, I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts with this pick?
To me, I'm still thinking like offensive weapons in some capacity. I would say it's especially now too. It's really unfortunate for Chris Bell that he tore his ACL, because that like this guy would
Yeah.
be a first round pick, especially just the way this draft board is panning out here. I do think maybe like if we're sticking on the receivers here, the only real one because Casey Concepcion to me is kind of like what Marvin Mims would turn out to kind of like how Marvin Mims
Yeah,
turned
I
out.
agree with
And at the
that.
same time, though, too, Elijah Surratt is kind of already Pat Bryant. He's maybe a little bit better, or has a little bit higher ceiling than Pat Bryant. But once again, I can see Omar Cooper being a first round pick. I just don't see Elijah Surratt being a first round pick. I think he's middle second round
Yeah.
ish. You could take Chris Bell here, seeing what because I think he would be a very intriguing option to this team here with how Cortland Sutton could go. Now you are risking like he might not play his first year, but you're also
Yeah.
hoping on the upside within the system. I think some of the other guys, but that's what's really sticking out to me here on this. If I go and look at the defensive side of the ball,
There any corners? Like, would you potentially look at upgrading Riley Moss? Like, that's where this team is so well rounded.
well, what's interesting
Uh,
though is they got Jade Barron last year. Now I don't think
oh,
he's
that's
played
true.
nearly that much, so that's where it's to me it would be like, would you want to improve with Draquan McMillan in some capacity? Was there a safety as well too? That's where I think,
Dylan Thieneman is an option.
yeah,
Um,
Dylan
let's go.
Thieneman
Let's go.
or go ahead.
I was gonna say let's just go Chris Bell. I think with Sean Payton, I think that is a home run capable receiver that he can just find ways to get the ball in his hands. And
Yeah.
I think there's a risk there with injury, but I think it might be worth it to get Sean Payton this weapon.
Okay.
So
Okay. I can see that. Uh, Real quick, I've been thinking about this for the past couple picks. What about D'Angelo Ponce? Put him at nickel. You already have Pat
so
Surtain as one lockdown guy.
uh I think that's a potential. My big thing is his height is a concern. I know he plays much bigger. But I do think of all positions, corner, there is a height
Well,
requirement.
no. It would be with the idea of him moving into nickel.
Yeah.
And Draquan
I think it's a
McMillan,
possibility. I already made the
yeah,
pick, but that's a
no, I
possibility.
know. So, you guys already have Marcus Jones, so I won't do that here. For your Patriots, oh, let me back up here. I just backed out of the depth chart here. Been thinking about y'all a lot, obviously, the past couple weeks with you guys being in the Super Bowl here, and it's interesting, like kind of looking up here, like on the board. Um, who are y'all's free agents again?
So Caleb on Chason, Kairos Tonga,
Okay, that's
like
him. Okay, thank you for saying that. Caleb Banks is going to be the guy here. You put him in at nose tackle. I think that's going to be the spot here. If you guys want to let Kairos Tonga go, um,
You sure you don't want TJ Parker?
I already clicked Caleb Banks. You
Okay.
won't regret it. So, would you like TJ Parker more?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
I think they bring back Tonga on a I think Caleb Banks is a fine player. I am not super high on him. He's only played 9 games in the last 2 years. The injuries are a major red flag with him.
Okay.
Um, and I think his play was inconsistent. Even at the Senior Bowl, he had some reps where he just, I don't want to say he took him off, but he played with a really high pad level. But then it's like you saw when he turned it on, it's like, okay, like this guy's unblockable.
Yeah.
Even in pass rush at 340. But I think the Patriots would bring back Tonga and Chase on. I actually think they might find a way to get out of Harold Landry's contract, which TJ Parker would be a plug and play replacement for him. But we took Caleb Banks. So
Yes, you did.
all right. Last up here, Seattle Seahawks. You mentioned wide receiver. I think that would be really interesting because I think if they do win the Super Bowl, Cooper Kupp might retire. Even if he doesn't, he's in his like mid 30s now and is like kind of reduced to a role player. So I think wide receiver is something to really kind of look at. Chris Brazzell would probably be the one that I would take here. I think he has the highest ceiling of everyone. I also think, Emmanuel Pregnon, I don't know if they would go interior offensive line in the first round 2 years in a row, but that would be another really interesting option. Let's go Chris Brazzell. I just think, even at 6'5", 200 pounds, his route running ability is phenomenal. His ability to win down the field as well in contested catch situations or just as a true separator, also really good. Not saying that he's like this player at all, but like he did have 1 rep against Georgia, and like it just kind of reminded me a little bit of Randy Moss, where like the corner looks like he's kind of going in slow motion, and like Chris Brazzell is just flying like right by him in a straight, in like this like long strider like body type and build, and he just goes and like hits him right in stride, and he goes in for touchdown, and it just gave me flashbacks to like 2007 a little bit. That is a lofty expectation for him as a player, but I think he has the skill set to go and be like a true number 1 receiver on his own. I think you pair him up with JSN, it's like all of a sudden now with Sam Darnold being one of the best quarterbacks throwing the ball down the field, and then this offense, I really think that would be a very solid pick for the Seahawks.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I think for a lot of these guys, and I get your point about like Omar Cooper, he could be that guy, but a lot of these receivers now though are good to really good receivers. But
Yeah.
I don't think you want them to become your number 1 receiver. Like they need to be part of a system that fits their skill set well. And I think to your point though, JSN, he is one of the few guys that like no, he is clearly he is your number 1 receiver. He can be your number
Yeah.
1 receiver, 1,700 yards. And now there's so much attention on him and trying to slow him down. Then when you got a beast like Chris Brazzell, and we've already seen the success of a guy like Rashid Shaheed be like, no, like dude, you're running go balls essentially. Like that's going to be your skill set that you bring in this offensive system, and you go and get a guy like that and develop him for a long time. So I could see it, but once again, though, too, is like now that we're looking at this board here, it's like, yeah, we're seeing a lot of these guys here. I mean, the first 9 or 10 are pretty much the same as well,
Yeah.
too. Arvell Reese fell a little bit more, which I think is possible, but even then, to what happens from 2 through 10, the order that they go in is still definitely up in the air. And then who gets taken, from 12, 13 on is definitely still a question mark. Especially too once when you get to, I'd say once when Arvell Reese is off the board, then it's really all bets are off. I think
Yeah.
at that point, there's no clear cut first round pick. There's some of these guys though I do think that are top 50. Like a guy
Yeah.
like Monroe Freeling, for example. I don't think he's fallen past 50 for much reason. Omar Cooper, I don't think he's fallen past 50. Kenyon Sadiq, not fallen past 50. But I can easily see them falling out of the first round for one reason or the other.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like TJ Parker's not in this first round mock. And I think that's like a very decent possibility. He had a really good showing at the Senior Bowl, so maybe he like kind of solidified himself in the top first round. But you go watch the tape from this past year, and it just wasn't what you would have hoped.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this. Like, I'd say outside of the top 20, like I think there are a few risers. So maybe it's like Max Ianachor, or like I think is kind of where I think he's guaranteed to go in the first round now, just with his athletic traits and tools. But like, there's not a huge difference, in my opinion, from like 20 to like 70. A lot of those guys in there are like, these are really good football players that are going to do this for you. And like, if you're lucky, they'll develop into more than that. But for now, I just think like, yeah, you're getting, I think, a lot of these players at face value, and the bust rate might be lower. I just don't know if like the home run hit rate is going to be super high
Yeah.
for a lot of these guys. You say that, and then it's like this look back at it in 5 years. This is an amazing draft class, but there just aren't a ton of blue chippers. That's going to be 2027, I think, where Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Arch Manning, and like those guys come
Yeah.
out. And then that top 20 is going to be insane, like 2024 was.
Yeah. I agree.
So let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this mock draft here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of this mock draft. Let us know what you thought of your team's pick. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? Than that, we'll see you guys next time.